What is going on, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Ronan Bell Show. With me today is Lyndsey Reed, who is a pole vaulter for Ole Miss. So let's just cut to it and cue that intro. Miss Lyndsey, what is going on today?
Hello, how are you?
I'm just chilling, have been doing a little editing today, nothing crazy. How about yourself?
Not too much. It's actually snowing today in Mississippi, believe it or not. So that
Is
was
that
an
a
interesting
thing?
thing to wake up to.
You're from, yeah, you'll find out later in the podcast, listeners, that Lyndsey actually grew up in Pennsylvania. So is that not normal for Mississippi? I can't imagine
Um,
it being normal.
it gets cold and it will like flurry, but it doesn't usually stick to the ground. And it actually did stick to the ground this morning, so that was a little weird.
Did you have to actually get out some sweatpants rather than just, wearing shorts all the
Yeah,
time?
had to get my coat out. I took a spatula to my car because I don't even have a scraper here.
That's so wait, that's so I didn't even think about that. You probably don't even have a shovel or anything.
No, no,
No preparation for that.
none.
Lyndsey, before we get into anything else, could you just explain to the listeners out there who you are, what you do, basic information kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Lyndsey. I'm a sophomore at Ole Miss, and I pole vault here. I also study nutrition and dietetics with hopes to become a registered dietitian. I love it here. I'm originally from State College, but um, just needed a change in scene. So here we are in the middle of Mississippi.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a pretty big difference, I would say, coming from
Absolutely.
State College, Pennsylvania to Mississippi.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, the first time I heard of Ole Miss, thought it was in Missouri. Don't know why, but just a huge common thing in my head. But anyway, so going from growing up in a college town, how was that? Did you go to Penn State football games every Saturday? Is that what everyone does, or?
So I feel like my experience in state college, I don't know how different it was from other people's, but in terms of being like right next to Penn State, my parents weren't like bleeding blue and white sort of thing. So my parents are actually both from West Virginia. So
Wow.
we're not like Penn State die hard, like go to every single game. So I would just kind of go with friends when the opportunity was there. And like I'd go to Penn State gymnastics meet or things like that. But not like a regular, like every weekend sort of thing.
That's kind of crazy to hear about because most people up there are just
I know.
die hard. It's Penn
I
State
know.
or die. You
Right.
ever
Yeah.
do something stupid when you decided to commit to Ole Miss? Did you get backlash a lot from it?
Oh
Everyone's
yeah.
like, "No way!" No.
We're like the university's like right here. What are you doing?
Just having the opportunity of a big college right at your doorstep
Yeah.
is insane. So did that kind of help you? I understand that going from high school to college is a big deal, and at least from my experience it was. But just having that at your doorstep all those years, did it kind of help you transition into the environment at least a little bit?
I think so because you know kind of like what the university looks like and it's not like your first time stepping on. You're like, oh my goodness, this is huge. Like I kind of, I knew what it was like to be around downtown and like I've been on campus a bunch of times and my mom's a teacher, so I know some of the professors, and so it wasn't so daunting to kind of be like, okay, it's just they're people, like it's just a university, like this is doable, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, was Penn State bigger than Ole Miss, would you
Yeah,
say?
Penn State's a lot bigger than Ole Miss, so it's funny, that's part of the reason I like it is Penn State is just ginormous. I mean, it is massive. And so is Ole Miss, but it's not as big. Like just in terms of population and campus size, it's still a big school, but it's not as massive as Penn State.
Oh yeah, you could literally try and talk to someone every hour at Penn State your
Oh yeah.
entire 4 years there and not get to talk to everyone that was there, which is
Oh,
that mind blowing to think about.
absolutely.
But so pole vaulting, something that in my mind that I would not typically gravitate to. Was there anything else in high school that you really did, or was it just pole vault or die?
Yeah, so I actually started pole vaulting in eighth grade. And at the time, I was doing travel volleyball and playing like school volleyball for our middle school. And then when I transitioned up to high school, I think I played club my freshman year of high school, if I remember right. So long ago. So I played club volleyball again my freshman year and was pole vaulting kind of just like I would go to practice and then leave pole vault early to go to volleyball. So it wasn't really like my like number one, I'd say at the time. But then I think it was junior year, I just kind of decided that the way that we were training for volleyball, because volleyball came before track and field, just in terms of like fall and then winter sports, the training for volleyball just was kind of setting me up to fail for pole vaulting. So by the time I reached my junior year, I was like, okay, I think I want to try to do this thing in college. I should probably like take it a little more seriously. So quit volleyball and started training full time for track.
I feel like pole vault. I mean, I'm not a track and field expert or anything, but like I feel like pole vault doesn't really line up with a lot of sports because basically the whole premise is to just get really high off the ground. How
Yeah.
high do you actually go in the air when you're doing that stuff?
So my overall PR is 13 feet 5.5 inches.
Oh my God. And that's like whatchamacallit, that horizontal, that's the word I'm looking for. You're
Yeah.
jumping like this
Yep.
and you're like
Over a
back
bar.
flipping
Yep.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is not for me. Like I do cheerleading, I think backflips scary, but that's so high. That's
Yeah.
that's like crazy to think about to me. But was like pole vaulting in college, like is that like a big thing for people? Like I know that there's like Penn relays or and everything, but how do you even like I didn't even know that that was a college like thing to
Thing.
begin with. So just
Yeah.
how do you get involved in like the recruiting process for that?
Yeah. So okay, so I guess especially with women's pole vault, so women's pole vault's only been around since 2000. So I would say it's still kind of an up and coming thing in some ways. So basically, like if you're doing it in high school and you're jumping like 12 feet or higher, like you're gonna get Division I attention. Um, and it just depends on how hard you want it. I mean, there might be some smaller D1 schools that reach out to you and they're like, hey, you know what, you'd be great here, just come jump for us. But if you're really like adamant about it and you know that there's opportunities out there, like you just have to kind of stick your feet out there and ask like, hey, can I come jump for you? Like, can I come look at your school? It's not any different from other events. It's just kind of like a weird, not a lot of people know about like pole vaulting, or when they think about track and field, they think about like Usain Bolt, like sprinting and like high jump, and they're like, oh, like yeah, pole vaulting's like a thing.
No, that's like so true. I feel like it's like so overlooked until like one of my buddies in high school did. So like I kind of understand like the
Yeah.
slightest amount of what it is, but just being a part of a team. And I know that like track and field kind of seems like you're not like it's just you and that's it. But
Mhm.
there's like events, right? And there's like individual on how you personally score, and then there's something where like the team actually wins,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, so you score as an individual in like, so for me, I would score in women's pole vault, but then they're divided by men's and women's teams. So your score, depending on how you do, folds into an ultimate team score. So then, you go to like the SEC championships, there's still a team winner. So your individual event does really tie in.
Yeah, so like you like your whole team is relying on you for like something. I
Oh,
know like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
scary at some point.
And track and field, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it may come down to like, one person getting like, if they're at the end of the day, if they get first place, they win the whole team, or, if they get second place, they might lose it for the team. Like it can come
Oh,
down to like that one or those two people.
oh yeah, like that's crazy because in that way you can compare track and field to other sports. It's like playing in the fourth quarter or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. Yeah. But what about like have you ever had I know that track and field meets go like all day long and they're like real like you're up 5 a.m., you're on a bus, next thing you know,
Yeah.
it's 12 o'clock at night and you're
Right.
on your way home. So going from that, is it like really hard to try and keep everyone at like the same level on the team? Because people that compete in the morning, they're like kind of dumb for the day. Or like if you're competing at night, I can take it easy in the morning and then like, oh,
Yeah.
like I actually have to do something later.
So this is actually kind of one of my favorite things about college, and it's just the beauty of making it to the college level is in high school, it's a lot like that where, there was times in high school I'd wake up at 4 a.m. to get on a bus and I wouldn't compete until, 5 p.m. and then I wouldn't get home till 1 a.m. that sucked. But in college, they have the luxury to, so usually in college what happens is the meet is Friday and Saturday, but we'll go on like Thursday, like midday. And then Thursday evening, we'll actually go to like whatever facility it is, and we'll have an extra day of practice at that facility on their track, like kind of get used to the environment. And then whoever competes Friday, like if they compete Friday night, they actually get to sleep in all day Friday morning, show up whenever they need to on Friday, like, afternoon, evening, compete, and then leave. And a lot of times last year, women's pole vault was on Saturday. So, you get to go practice on Thursday, go watch the guys on Friday, and then sleep in a little bit on Saturday and wake up and compete. So in terms of like surviving the day in college, it's so much easier just because of how spread out and how nice it is. And that's just the beauty of making it to that level.
Yeah, you get the treatment. It's really nice.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
you get like that
that's for
fine
sure.
steak dinner every once in a while, and it's great
Yeah,
all of a sudden. But
right.
most of like the listeners out there probably don't really get the whole track in college thing because I think it's something that's like really, really overlooked. Like I didn't
I
even know that
agree.
Penn State had a program until like I started to do cheerleading or any of that. So how long, like how many teams are there really going into these competitions and everything? Is there like a lot?
It's highly dependent. Every like host team kind of just picks what they want their meet to look like. So this year I think it's definitely going to be different. I would expect there to be like maybe 4 to 5 teams at each meet, if not less. And that's pretty typical. I mean, you get too many people in the facility and it's just chaos. But I would say normally there's probably between 4 and 6 schools at each meet.
And they're like tournament kind of style things or like
Mhm.
ever like best team wins every time, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's, sometimes, a lot of times what happens in college is you'll kind of have like your season opener. So you'll go to like kind of an easier meet where you might be like the top dog just to give everybody like kind of an ease in the season. Like, all right, it's like time to compete. Let's just start it off with like kind of an easy one. Let's just get our feet under us. And then you'll move into like where it's, you get towards SEC championships and it's all the SEC schools. So, every race you're lining up with some of the best people in the country.
Well, were you able like last year? I don't know how good Ole Miss was or anything, but did you
Right.
guys get to like experience that environment at all? Or
So last year was kind of weird. We went to SECs normally, and we did okay there. Our team altogether usually doesn't do like crazy, crazy well, but individually we have some really good people. Like our thrower girls are just out of this world, and it just depends on the event in the year and how many people we have and what their experience level is. But last year, some of our girls showed up to NCAA championships, and then I don't know if you guys know this, but like everybody got sent home because of COVID the day that they got there. So that never actually happened, but
oh my God, it was so awful for cheer. We were on a bus to Indiana when like the world got like Rudy Gobert got COVID and like the first big name
yeah.
popped out and we all had to get sent home too and it was absolutely awful. So you guys did you guys like have a season or did you guys kind of get cut short?
Yeah, so we had indoor completely normal up until the national championships, and then the people that went like
Yeah.
just literally came back like the next day. And then we were actually at practice. I think it was over spring break because we don't go home for spring break. That's our transition from indoor to outdoor. So I'm pretty sure, if I remember this right, we were at practice over spring break, and it was the week before our first outdoor meet. And our coach just kind of pulled us all to the infield, and he was like, I just like got a notification like you guys have to go home. And we were just kind of like, what? He's like, yeah, like you have to go home. Like that's the rule right now. We're all just like, okay. Like like we just didn't really know how to process it.
Oh yeah, it was like a huge like when COVID hit, I feel like everyone's world was just like it did not matter who you were. Everyone was on the same playing field. That
Yeah.
like everyone's life just got
Chaos.
messed up. How was it like how was that going home after that? Like what emotions going through you at that time? Just mad?
Yeah, I mean, I was super bummed out. I think the hardest part for me, honestly, was just mentally like not knowing where the end was gonna be. Like, I feel like when I first went home, I was like, okay, like it's gonna be like 2 months and we'll be back, and like maybe we'll have a couple meets and we'll be able to finish the season, like whatever. And then we get to that 2 months and I'm like, okay, we're still not back yet. We still don't know when we're going to be back. And then I ended up just staying home the whole summer. So I think the hardest part was just not knowing like when I was going to be allowed back here. It's just weird.
Oh yeah, I mean, like physically, like I'm sure you could work out at home and do
Yeah.
whatever you had to do, but it is the mental game, especially when things like that happen, because now you're by yourself, like you're not with the people that you're
Yeah.
around 24/7. Like when you're a
Right.
part of the team, you're with your team way more than you are like anyone else, your
Totally.
roommate, because you're practicing. I mean, what do you practice? Like a couple hours a day, and then you like eat with them, some of
Yeah.
them
I mean, I
class.
live with like three other track athletes. Like we just, that's what we do. We're with each other all the time.
Yeah, and like going from like that environment to going to home is just a huge culture shock. Another question I had for you was going from like state college to Mississippi is insane. Like that's a huge, huge gap in the culture. How hard was it to transition to like that kind of area and environment down south?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, like Oxford, Mississippi is where this school is. Oxford and State College are really not that different. Like they're both based around a college town. State College and Penn State are just more expansive. Like they're just huge. Um, but like team or like town vibe, kind of the same. I mean, it's just the people are here because they're professors or there's always association with the university, so there's big university support in the town. And I mean, the only thing I can say I feel like really is the people are just a lot nicer.
Oh, I was just gonna say that people in the south are
Yeah,
so
I
nice.
mean, I just feel like when I first got here, like when I would just walk past people, they would like meet my eyes and be like, hello, like, how you doing? Like, and when I'm up there, not all the time, but just most of the time, it's kind of just people like look away from you or like look at the ground or pull their phone out instead of engaging with you. Not a huge difference, but definitely something that got my attention when I was first year on campus.
Does the sir ma'am thing get to you at all? Because I know a bunch of people say that in the South.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it's kind of like an expectation almost. So I've had to kind of teach myself to jump on that boat. It was hard a little bit at first, but you get used to it. It's just when you hear it that much, it kind of just flows right into the conversation sometimes.
Oh, just like it's like people don't think that like in the United States that we're all just in this same like big bubble and everyone's exactly the same. We all grow up the same way. No, when
Yeah.
you go down south or you go on the opposite side of the country, it's a whole different world down
Oh
there.
yeah. Absolutely.
Especially when you're able to, sometime not right now because it's snowing, but you can go outside in shorts and a t-shirt and do whatever the heck you
Yeah.
want instead of.
And that, I mean, that was a big part of the reason I came down here is I literally, I mean, I told my mom, I was like, I cannot pole vault in the cold anymore. Like, I'm not doing it. So
Oh
I looked
yeah,
only
that
at Southern
sucks.
schools. And then, I mean, it was just, I love this school. And I came here and I was like, my team, the people that I met, I was like, I love them. And my coach was great. And it just made so much sense for me. And I was so ready to just try something new aside from state college. So
Yeah,
it worked well.
yeah, having like how much do you think like having the team kind of helped you, transition into college? Because you kind of have like built-in friends at that point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I can't speak to what it's like to be somebody that's not on a team, but it is that. I mean, you have built-in friends that invite you to things and like they're just there for you if, you don't know where you're going on campus, you can just FaceTime somebody real quick and they're like, I'm standing by this building and I need to go here. Where do I go? Or just, somebody that's in your major, you can ask them how it was for them or what professors to look for. And it's just nice to have like those people to look up to that have been there before. And then also just like the built-in best friend sort of thing.
Yeah, and having like someone, just having one person like older than you, like I'm sure you have seniors that do pole vault and all that as well, and it's
Yeah.
just way easier. Like you were saying, if I need to ask someone for advice, like if this is what I want to do, if I want to be a dietitian, let me go ask someone that's on the team that has
Yeah.
similar goals, similar work schedule that I have.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, in terms of just being an athlete in general, there's so much support around us with like just athletics, like our advisors and the people there for our future. I mean, you need a tutor, you get one. You need some supplies, you get them. you need to figure out how to get an internship, somebody will point you in the right direction. There's so many people just there for you and so that you do well. So not to say that you can't fall short, but you really shouldn't, because there's so many people that are just in your corner, like rooting you on and just that have your back no matter what happens.
Oh yeah, the more resources and the more opportunities presented, the more likely you are to succeed.
Oh yeah,
It's a numbers game at that point. But
right.
just having even just having like a tutor is something that's huge, and I didn't realize how much it helped. Just having someone like sit one on one with you and just be like, "All right, this is what you actually have to do," and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
this makes so
yeah.
much more sense." But how do you think that balancing between schoolwork and track, how is that for you?
For me, it's not bad. I've always been somebody that's just kind of like I always say I have OCD. Like I am just a very organized person. Like I got my calendars, I got my sticky notes, I got my planner. Like I'm that person. So I try not to miss a beat. You know, when we're traveling, like you have to go to your professor on Tuesday and be like, hey, like I'm not gonna be here. What do I need to do? Like if you are just on top of it and you're communicating, it's not an issue. It's just when you don't communicate or you miss things or you're somebody that doesn't check things, that's when you get in trouble.
Oh, you have to be like one step ahead of the game. You actually have to like look into your future and say like I actually have something to do. Like I am
Yeah,
dependent on something else for a change rather than just doing whatever
right.
I have to do. And that's like in college it's crazy because these professors are balancing 1,500 other kids and it's not just 30 like it was in high school. Do you think that
Right.
like high school helped you out to go into college? Because I'm sure you're kind of same way there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just if I like it depends on how you are in high school, and I was the same way in high school. I learned very quickly, like even just I know traveling was a little different in terms of track and field in high school versus college, but in some aspects it's the same. If you fell short in high school when you were leaving for meets and you didn't ask what was going on, or what you were going to miss, like you were going to be behind. So it's the same thing. If you just stay on top of it and you're a good communicator like I was in high school, it's easy to do the same in college.
Oh, I like the point that you make about communication because if you tell someone, like no one's gonna read your mind. And like that's
Yeah,
something I think is crazy that you need to like people don't understand that you actually need to like say something. It's just not your emotions and it's not gonna magically
yeah,
throw the message into your head like into that other person's head. Like it just doesn't work.
yeah,
That'd be cool if you could be that person that did that, but I mean it's not everyone else out there. And especially being just having that mindset from high school into college definitely helps as well because if you have a good base, it's easy to build on top of that foundation.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, professors, not to say that they're ruthless, but they just don't have as much sympathy. Like, if you're not on your game and you show them that you don't care, they're not gonna care either. Like they're the ones getting paid. If you don't want to work, if you don't want to pay attention, if you don't want to be on top of it, that's on you. It's not on them. So, when your counselors call you in and they're like, why are you failing this class? Why are you missing 3 tests because you traveled? It's on you. They're not gonna go to the professor and be like, well, why are you discrediting this athlete? Why are you giving them zeros? No, it's on the athlete. The athlete has to care enough to go to the professor and be like, hey, I'm an athlete. I'm traveling. I need you to know that I need help.
Yeah, they don't. At the end of the day, like they can't worry about every single person. Again, like I said,
No.
they have 1,500 students. Not like they can just single you out and say, "Hey, Lindsay, like I understand that you didn't get back to me. Must be really busy." Like, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't
No, not
matter
at all.
what you're doing. They don't care because they have to do their job too. They're trying to teach a bunch of other kids. They can't just worry about one. Even like I don't think being an athlete is like considered a privilege in the classroom. Obviously, understanding that like when you have something to do, they understand, but they treat you just like everyone else, like that, like it should be. They're not going to give you any
Mhm.
special privilege just because you can, jump over a really high bar or throw a football
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, I mean, there's some professors out there, and I haven't run into this personally, but I've heard some horror stories of just professors that actually don't like athletes because they leave, because they make practice excuses, because they kind of try to pull that card of like, I'm an athlete, so I should get like priority or like privilege. They're just like, no, Like, not at all. Like, I don't support that. So, I don't know. You really have to like play the game right. Like, you just have to be respectful and be on top of it, but also not be like, oh, I'm an athlete, like give me extra time or let me do this and that. Like you just have to listen and try to figure it out with them, even if they're kind of tough about it.
Yeah, you can't abuse your power. Like it's just again, just because you do whatever you do on the field or the track or whatever it may be on the court doesn't mean you have the right to, go at someone else because that's not fair to them either. Like that
No, not at
it's
all.
you got to treat everyone with the same respect that you do like everyone else, no matter if they're older than you, younger than you. Like I don't care if professor is 60 years old and he's telling me that something that's wrong. Like if you're wrong, you're wrong. Like it straight up, it doesn't matter how
Just
old
how it
you are.
is.
Yeah, it's just something that more people need to learn and be more empathetic of that someone else is actually going through something and someone actually has another thing to do. Like I need help. Like I'm
Yeah.
reaching out towards you for help. Like can you help me do it as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with at the college level, I'm sure that the game kind of changed in high school. Everyone it's way easier to coordinate because,
Yeah,
you're all in the same little bubble. And I mean, state high was a pretty big school, right? Like 700
it
kids, something
was.
like. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nuts. But that number is crazy. But anyway, like it's the whole coordinating thing is way easier at the high school level than it is the college level because there's just less people to worry about.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just less chaotic, and I do think that sometimes high school teachers, I don't know, in my experience the whole time they were always like sports fans and they loved athletes and they were always just like, whenever you return from like your meet, we'll talk about it. Like I feel like I got that answer a lot of times. But in college it's like, well, if you have to take your test on a bus while your advisor is sitting in front of you watching you, like that's what you have to do. Like they just don't have as much sympathy, and that's okay. Like that's just how it is. But it's definitely a lot easier in high school because there's just less people and they give you a little more wiggle room in terms of just time and turning things in and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, 100%. So, what would your like typical day look like? Let's take COVID out of it. Like, what's a
Okay.
real track and field? Lyndsey Reed. Like, what am I doing on my typical day as a Ole Miss pole vaulter?
Yeah, so normally we have practice at 11. And I'm a morning person. I like to get up and get things done in the morning. And that way, like after practice or just later, like in the afternoon, I kind of have the day to myself to like do whatever, homework I need to do or work on whatever. So I usually try to make my schedule so I have like one or two classes in the morning. And then I have a little bit of time before practice, just to kind of, eat what I need to eat or just get ready basically. I don't like to just walk in the door to practice. I'm just not the kind of person that can do that. I like to get myself a little bit more prepared. um, so I take one or two classes, go to practice at 11. We have practice from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Not exactly every day start to finish, but that's our like practice block. Some days it's 3 hours, some days it's 45 minutes. It just kind of depends on what we're doing that week. And then I would eat lunch. We have a place called the Grill here, which is like an athlete dining hall sort of thing. Normal students can eat at it, but it's like right in the indoor football field, so it's like very convenient for athletes, and it's really like healthy food. So normally I go there, and sometimes before that I'll go to the training room. Sometimes after, just kind of depends on my day. I'll get something done if I need to, or if I feel fine that day, I won't. Then I'll come back home, maybe do another class, maybe two, and then I have the day to myself. I just kind of like work on what I need to. I shower, snack, I just hang out. And it sounds dry, like lather, rinse, repeat, but I really do appreciate that in the fall because when we get to the spring, traveling every weekend is definitely exhausting.
Oh yeah, going from like obviously track. You do that in the winter and the spring, right? So you're
Yeah,
kind of
so
doing it
it
two times.
starts in January. So we actually have our first meet this weekend, and then it goes the whole way to June.
Yeah, so your schedule kind of like changes, especially from the fall to spring. That's a
Oh yeah.
huge difference, I'm sure, because during the weekend you're traveling all the time, and during the week you're just normal college kid. Have you ever
Yeah.
wished that you weren't an athlete and you were a regular college kid?
Oh, there's definitely times. Yeah. I mean, towards the end of indoor last year, I was tired traveling every weekend, trying to do my classes, especially for the first time ever as a freshman. Like, I was dead. So there's times I'm kind of like, wow, I just wish this was easier, but I love what I do. So do I ultimately want that? No.
Yeah, no, I think that's like a if you could like turn it off or just like for a day and
Yeah,
just
for a
live as a
day.
college lifestyle. And I think that's what like COVID gave some athletes that perspective of just being
Yeah.
able to like, wow, I'm done class and now I don't
Hmm.
have any practice for once. Like, what am I going to do with my time?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like you just get off of Zoom and you're kind of like twiddling your thumbs, like, okay, now what?
Yeah. No, that's totally right. How'd you like Zoom class? Like learning online rather than going in person. What was the difference for you?
I don't like it because I just like to have kind of a relationship with my professors. I can do it. I do it well. I mean, I've had great grades and whatnot. I just don't like it. I mean, I do. There is some convenience to it. Like people talk about, they just kind of like roll out of bed and don't even put pants on and sit in their chair and get on their Zoom. That is kind of nice sometimes. Just kind of being able to sit in your house and do whatever you want. But I'm definitely ready to be back in person whenever that's gonna happen because this is just getting a little like mundane for me in terms of like not even knowing my professors at all.
Yeah, you don't get that like you don't get that human connection that you do when you're actually like taking a class in person because
No.
it's so nice to just like if you actually have like a genuine problem like what you're learning, sometimes it seems just weird to press the raise hand button on Zoom and just
Yeah.
like, it's so much nicer to have someone to, like, go up to at the end of the class and be able to ask that, and that's a huge problem with the whole Zoom thing, in my personal opinion, that people and, like, students aren't getting the human interaction that, like, humans need to survive. It's just part of human nature.
Yeah, and I think it's harder to make friends. Like I know there's people that I've stayed in touch with from my classes freshman year, just, we're in the same major, we're kind of doing things at the same pace, going through the same classes, and we're like, "Hey, like what class do you have, you know, or what classes do you have this semester? Do you want to like maybe meet up to study or it's just nice to have like friends in your classes, and when you have Zoom, it's not impossible to make those friends, but it's definitely way harder.
Yeah, like, the whole bubble thing, like, when
Mhm.
you're walking into college with pretty much you might know a couple people from high school. I don't know how many people from State High went to Ole Miss, you might be the only one, am I right? Yeah, I was
0.
just gonna say
Yeah.
that. Um But it's like it's so hard to just like meet other people if you're not like if you weren't on a team, like just meeting someone in the classroom
Yeah.
is something like that's how most people make friends or like if they're on their floor, whatever it may be. But now students aren't getting that as much. And
Yeah.
that's what's hurting them not only like academically, but just having the college experience.
Yeah, I mean, I feel terrible for some of the freshmen coming in, especially the non-athletes, just being completely online, It's how do you make friends? You know what I mean? Like you're gonna
Yeah.
show up sophomore year, your second year of college, and like you're gonna feel like you just started because you don't know anybody.
Yeah, you're gonna literally be at the same level as everyone else, and it feels like you almost wasted like a year of your college experience, which it
Yeah,
shouldn't be like that. Like you're in college, like this is the one time you're gonna be able to do it.
right. I agree completely.
Yeah. So we're talking a lot of good things right now. Everything, COVID happened. Subject of adversity. What do you think? Have you like ever experienced any adversity whatsoever that kind of helped you or you learned from something?
A lot, yeah. So pole vault is frustrating. If there's one word that I had to pick for it, it's frustrating. So high school, I tore my hamstring, had to take a bunch of time off for that. And then I didn't get hurt at all freshman year. We obviously only had half of a season, but that went pretty well for me. And then this kind of like summer into fall, I like broke a pole and had to take some time off. So there's definitely like either physical or mental things that happen just naturally along the way that are just so frustrating, and they make it definitely like an interesting path and you learn a lot, but it can be very tough.
Well, especially because when you're like at one of those meets or you're like at a practice or whatever it may be, it's one shot, right? To get over however high you're trying to go over. Or is it more than
So
one?
yeah,
Like,
the way the pole vaulting works, it's kind of like, I don't know how much you know about like high jump or anything like that. So when the bar goes up, you get 3 attempts. and it's either miss or make. But if you miss all three, you're done. And if you make it, you move on. And you can like pass certain bars, but most people don't do that. They just start jumping at a bar and miss or make 3 times, and you either keep going or you're out.
Yeah, like that's a huge thing because the mental side of that is I can't imagine because like in most other sports, like in basketball, you miss a shot, you can go back on defense. Football, like make a bad pass, you're going to be able to do something again that game. In
Yeah.
track, it's way different. You got what you said 3 chances and that's it. So if you're not going to be able to jump that, like that doesn't only hurt you, that hurts your team too, and that's something that's like hard to get over, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that one of the most unique things about like pole vaulting and high jump and stuff like that is when you're like standing on the back of the runway and that bar's up there, like you can see your goal like right in front of your eyes. Like you know exactly what you're going for. There's no hiding it. Like I think like kind of the difference is when you think about like sprinting or like long jump, you run and then you know like okay, that's what my time was. That's what the length was. With pole vaulting or like high jump, it's right there. Like you know what it is. You know what you have to hit and you're literally staring at it before you go. So I think that's kind of a unique thing about those events.
Have you ever not been able to jump over that bar?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So basically when you jump over a bar, it just keeps going up. It never stops. So it will hit a point where you can't clear it. Like you're at your max for that day. So you always, that's kind of, I never really thought about it like that before, but you always kind of end up like, I don't want to say failing, but you end up missing. Like you go until you can't go anymore. You go until you can't clear it. So you go until you miss 3 times. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's almost like it's almost like you plateau in pole
Yeah.
vaulting, right? Because you get so
Yep.
high that like at one point, like how much higher can I actually go? And that's like something that mentally I'm sure is very strenuous because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know how much like you can work as hard as you possibly can. You can do everything you can, but when it comes to the showtime, like sometimes it just you can come up a little bit short.
Oh, yeah. Pole vaulting is an extremely mental sport. Like, not even just the bar and where it's at that meet, but when it comes down to like, your third attempt and it's like, all right, you got one more shot, or, you're the last one in maybe, or even just it can come down to like poles. I mean, pole vault is just such a mental game. And I think honestly, it's more mental than it is physical in some aspects, if that's not hard to believe.
No, it's like that's like any sport in general, especially like I could compare that to like baseball because like you got 3 chances to hit the ball, or you gotta walk back to the
Right.
dugout and wait your
Yeah.
next turn. I'm sure it's like the same way because you got it's the same thing. What am I talking about? You got 3 chances to
Yeah.
just do whatever you want or be able to jump over that bar. Same thing like hitting the ball, but if you miss, like you got to go back, and then
Yeah.
like that's something you have to deal with mentally. I'm sure that's really like I can't even think about that. But let's go back to tearing your hamstring. How did that exactly happen? Like, how was that recovery process?
Yeah, so that happened my junior year. So I honestly, the hardest part for me mentally was that was when I was starting to get recruited. So it was tough for me to like talk to my college coaches and be like, hey, like I can jump high, but I can't right now, sort of a thing. And like sometimes people don't recover well from hamstring injuries, like they're not able to jump the same way or run the same way. So it was really stressful for me to like try to ask these coaches to kind of like bank on what I'd already done and be like, I'm gonna recover, like I'll be able to do this. Like kind of recruit me off of what I could do instead of what I can do right now because I couldn't do anything. And it took me out for a good 7 to 8 months. Like I could run, but I wasn't able to actually like completely vault the way that I needed to for a good like 7 to 8 months. So it was really stressful for me. And it really wasn't the physical process because my mom's actually a physical therapist. So she kind of
Oh, that's
was
helpful.
my rehabilitator. But just the mental process with recruiting and then just getting so itchy to get back on the runway and just not being able to or not, being allowed to was so frustrating.
Well, that's like the whole thing that I think we've been talking about this whole time. Is just like with the snap of your fingers, things change, and that's like
Yeah,
injury. That's like injury is just how it is. Like you can cut wrong, you can jump the wrong way, and all of a sudden, like you're out for 3 months and you can't do anything about it. And
right.
that's the part that's the most frustrating about sports to a lot of athletes is that if I get hurt, I can't do what I like to do for
Hmm.
a good amount of time.
Yeah,
And like, what else am I going to do about it?
yeah. I mean, you just gotta buckle down and get through the rehab process and try to stay mentally strong. But it's tough, especially when your teammates are out there killing it, and you're like, I just want to be out there so bad, but you're not allowed to be.
Oh, and it's like that itch to get back out there. Like when you
Yeah,
do it and you're like, I think I can do something like right now. And then
yeah.
they're trying to hold you back. Did you ever have those moments?
Yeah, so especially with a hamstring, it's not like a broken bone where you can just go in and take an x-ray and be like, okay, it's healed or it's not healed. It's kind of like a blurred line where you think it's better. You can kind of do these little tests and be like, okay, like it's pretty strong. It looks good. And then you go out and you try it. And I had this issue. I went out and I tried it, and it wasn't ready yet. And so it kind of can set you back a couple weeks. And that's just even more of that mental game where you're kind of like, crap.
Yeah, you don't know what to do because you think like the thing is in your mind you can do it, but
Yeah.
your body's telling you something completely
Yeah, and
different.
you want to so
You're not
bad.
able to. Yeah, and it's something that I think a lot of athletes like. I like to make the whole point that you are never alone in anything that you do. I'm sure that every single other person out there was going through the exact
Yeah.
same thing that you go through. And has that kind of helped you when like someone else on the team kind of gets hurt? Have you been able to kind of been like that
Yeah.
mental boost to them?
Yeah. So actually it's funny you say that. So my best friend and roommate here, she was my roommate last year and one of my roommates this year. So I tore my hamstring in high school and she tore her hamstring, or she didn't tear, she pulled her hamstring last year, like right before competition season came around. And it was just so hard on her mentally. But I was like, hey, like I've been there. Like you can do this. It was just easier for me to be there for her when she got like, just upset about it. And I'd be like, you're gonna be fine. Like I made a comeback, you're gonna make a comeback, like we can do this. So it's a lot easier for me to just be there for her having been in that position a few years ago.
Yeah, that's what I told my one of the other people I interviewed was my buddy Jarrett, who was a gymnast and he tore his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that he said that helped the most was just someone else trying to like just boosting him when you're down because when you're hurt, like there's not much that you can do. Like if it's walking, like I'm used to running. If I'm used to
Yeah.
flipping, like if I'm used to whatever it may be. But that's like the hard part about injuries because you're pretty much starting back from square zero when
Mm-hmm.
you're used to being at 100% and going at
Yeah.
100 miles an hour all the time.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
What do you think? So, what do you think the main goal for pole vaulting is for you? Like, what do you want to achieve while you're a pole vaulter at Ole Miss?
Yeah. So I mean, I would love to get the school records. Um, I'm less than a foot away at this point, and I feel like those are just I don't usually so I'm not the kind of person that likes to set like a number goal. Like I'm not like I want to jump like 14 feet. I kind of am in a place where I set like kind of technical goals like okay, I want to fix this, this, and this in my jump. And then once I accomplish those, I pick a few more things. So instead of like getting my eyes set on like this number, I kind of just like, all right, what can I do to improve my jump right now? Instead of getting myself so far ahead of myself to where I get like depressed if I don't hit that number that day. You know what I mean? It's more of
Yeah.
a realistic thing. And I just don't want to focus on like that one height, like do or die.
No, I completely understand because the little goals, they're like I think what someone said in my business class were like they're smart goals, like they're things that like you work up to, and then you have the bigger one, and that's kind of what
Yeah.
you were just explaining there. The more technical issues that you fix, the better your chance of achieving, having that school record. Is your dream
Yeah.
to kind of like have your name up in a? It's like in a like a little what am I
Yeah, they
thinking?
have like a thing. So
Case. That's what I'm thinking of.
at our outdoor track, they have like a little wall and it has all of like the men's and women's indoor and outdoor records. And like you get it and it shows like your name and then whatever the actual record is. So I just like, I walk past those numbers every once in a while and I'm like, I'm coming for it.
Well, I think that something that you said is really funny about that, because I remember I was just listening to a YouTube video on like Drake and how he used to, drive past this place in Canada where all these big houses were when he was really poor as a kid or whatever, when he was a child actor. I don't think Drake was ever poor, but
Yeah.
he was like, I just dreamt of having one of these houses one day, and like I manifested it. So maybe you should keep walking past those,
Yeah.
maybe we'll see Lyndsey Reed up there one day. But
Yeah.
the other thing that I want to ask you is, as like a team, what do you think you guys are trying to accomplish over the next, because one day you're going to be a senior, you're going to be the leader there. What are you
Yeah.
going to try and accomplish by the time you're there?
It kind of, the team thing gets difficult because it is very collective and it depends on, who's in every event. Like you may have a few events where you don't have older people and you just have some freshmen or some sophomores that don't have that much experience. So, like, not that you can't rely on them, but they may not be your big points. So I don't know where we're trying to be in terms of like an exact placement, but I think that as a program, we're just trying to, when we have like recruits coming in or we have freshmen, we're just trying to be like, hey, like this is our expectation, you need to contribute to the team. Like we're trying to get better every year. We're trying to get that rank up there every year. So it's not really like a definitive number, but we're just trying to, when we bring in new freshmen or younger people, we're trying to set the expectation like, hey, we're trying to really like build this here.
Yeah, no, I like that, because you got to take it one step at a time rather
Yeah.
than, try and jump for the moon when you haven't even got past the atmosphere yet. I don't know what
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
say
yeah.
there. But Lyndsey, one before I like to ask all my guests this, if there was one piece of wisdom that you want to pass on, what would that piece of wisdom be from you?
That's a good one. I would say this is something I learned this past year is just have gratitude. I don't care where you're at. I don't care what's happened to you. Everybody goes through different things. Some people, they have a kind of an easier journey. They might not have ever gotten hurt. They might have, seen a lot of success in their day, and other people get hurt every other week and, things fall apart for them. No matter where you're at, just have gratitude. Be thankful for where you're at. Be thankful for the things that you have, the people around you, your support, and just don't ever lose that perspective.
Yeah, no, I like that, because something that I think that people don't understand is the whole perspective thing. Like if hey, you have a bed sitting right next to you, you got a roof over your head, you got food in your stomach, you're better than 99% of the people in this
Yeah.
world. And that's like something crazy. Like if you can honestly think about that, maybe your day wasn't as bad as it
Bad as
was.
you thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we head to the conclusion of the episode, I like to do a quote segment. So Lyndsey, if there was one quote that you would like to, you know, look back on, think in your head constantly, whatever it may be, what do you think that would be for you?
I don't know if it's a quote, but it's just kind of like my motto. Um, no, I don't know if it's a motto, but I always say this to myself when I'm on the back of the runway. I just tell myself, and it's so like cliche and cheesy, but I just say, relax, you can do this. Because pole vaulting is so stressful and you can get yourself so amped up so easily, and that can really work against you. So I think that a lot of times I just have to remind myself, and a lot of other athletes just have to remind themselves, like, relax. Like, you do have this. You do this every single day. This is what you devote all of your time to. You don't need to make it out to be something more than it is. Like, you got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love the mantra, Lyndsey. But I would just like to thank you for, coming on the show today, telling us your story about being a Division I pole vaulter, because I'm sure a lot of people out there can't really get that through their head, or hopefully now they've at least had some insight on it. But before we go on with our day, Lyndsey, is there anything that you want to plug?
No, I mean, I just thank you for having me. Um, this was fun. I mean, I'm happy to like contribute to the athlete world, and I know that there's not a lot of pole vaulters out there. And I know you've done a lot of like, I don't know, I think football and baseball. So I'm like very excited
Yeah,
to
no,
contribute
there's a
to
whole
this.
we're in a whole new perspective
Yeah,
now.
I'm
No,
so
it's
excited
awesome.
to just be a part of this. So thank you so much. This has been fun.
Yeah, no problem. Guys, go check out Ole Miss track and field. Go see Lyndsey jump over a really high was it bar? Go see Lyndsey jump over a really high bar this spring. You said you have a competition coming up like Saturday or something. I'm sure they're televised
Yep.
somewhere, right?
Yeah, Vanderbilt is this weekend.
Yeah, go check that out, guys. But that is a wrap for another episode of the Ronan Bell Show. If you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that follow button up there. It really help me out. You get notified whenever a new podcast comes out. Also, I have merchandise. Keep on keeping on. Hoodies and beanies are available at theronanbellshow.com. Also getting shirts made to say, I know Ronan Bell. They should be out by the time about when the date comes out for the podcast. So I hope you guys are copping those as well. All the money that I make from this podcast goes straight back into it so I can do more giveaways like that $100 giveaway that I just did on Instagram. What's the date of this? January 11th. So it will come out Friday the 15th. We'll announce the winner for that. But other than that, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day getting through whatever you are going through. And as always, y'all just keep on keeping on.